Good morning, boys and girls, and welcome back to the Stink Bug Works. Today, a couple of interesting things, but not a whole lot new on the plate. Stand by. As you know, my rule is one in, one out. Or in the case of retired boats, one in, several out. Well, I gave away, let's see, one of these, a micro hydro, and my very first electric boat, a Gropner Mambo. And so those all have new owners. I'm waiting for the post office to deliver shipping boxes. And as soon as I have those boxes, I've got everybody's addresses, and away they go. But that sort of got me into purge mode. And I've been purging. I've been up in the closet in my office going through banker's boxes, and I'll pull out a banker's box and say, whoa, those are cool, but what the hell am I going to do with them? So right now, boys and girls, in my trash can, waiting to go out to the curb tomorrow morning, are a whole bunch of reef racers, a bunch of 75 megahertz transmitters, a bunch of nickel metal hydride battery packs, a bunch of cool stuff that will never, ever, ever be used again. Why was I keeping it? I don't know. But in the process of the Great Purge, I found several interesting things. And this might be the most interesting thing. What is in here is an Astro 15 geared and a 217 digital speed control. This, let's see, when would have this been? This would have been, 1990 to 1995. This was, in fact, this was probably Astro Bob's best motor combination. The geared 15, because you could run these things on like 14 cells and swing a pretty big prop. In fact, I'll tell you, I had a Porterfield Collegiate, which was an Astroflight kit that ran this motor. Now, a Porterfield Collegiate's, think Piper Cub, same thing. It was big and light. This motor looked dwarfed in that airframe. And I'd gone to Moses Lake, and I'm flying at the Moses Lake flying field, and everybody there's flying, gas or nitro. And I show up with electrics, and they poo-poo me. They go, oh, no, electric, you don't get any flight time with electrics. And I challenged one guy. Now, it was a nice, hot summer day, and there were terrain features all around. And so the guy says, yeah, I'll challenge you to a flight. And so now remember, the electrics are really quiet. And I told this guy, look, I'll take off before you take off, and I'll land after you land. So I took off, and he took off shortly after me. With his engine running, you couldn't hear mine. And as soon as I got to pattern altitude, I hooked into a thermal. I shut the throttle off, and I just climbed in a circle. And I told him, it climbs much better if I circle. And I don't want to go too far out of sight. And he didn't. Nobody knew that I had the prop shut off. And I kept climbing up and climbing up and climbing up until the thing's just a speck. And I hear him yelling, "Dead stick." And I'm way the heck up there to where this 6-foot airplane is just a tiny little speck. And so I slowly came back down and then did like 3 or 4 touch and goes and landed. Because, I'd only run the motor for maybe a minute beforehand before I hooked the thermal and climbed out of sight. Nobody knew that I was thermaling the damn thing because, thermal airplanes with propellers, well, you do it, they're electric. So nobody ever poo-pooed run times on electric. And that was when, I think I had C cells that were 1,200 milliamps. I mean, that's not much, but they got a kick out of electric airplanes that day. Anyway, I don't know what I'm going to do with this. I couldn't throw this in the trash. This is too cool. This has never, ever been used. So if anybody has a vintage airplane that could use a 15 power, let me know. Because I have this just sitting over here. I was talking about the Gecko, and you know how long it takes to make it seaworthy? Let's see. I put a radio in it. It already had the Velcro. I put an antenna in it. It already had the antenna tube. I put a speed control in it. It already had the Velcro. I put a motor in it. It already had the motor mount. I put batteries in it. It already had the Velcro. It's already got a servo in it. It's already got a rudder. It's already got a bellows. And it's already got a prop. Why, all I have to do is bind the receiver to some radio, charge up the batteries, plug it in and go. Another seaworthy Gecko. I think that's about it. This thing, I'm still waiting for some parts. The latest part I'm waiting for is screws. I need to get screwed. When I glue this in, these screws, these bolts, these screws, are going to be permanently affixed. I don't want them ever turning loose, and I'm going to be putting some force on them, tightening some nuts. So whereas these are this rather small hex in here, I ordered some that have a larger torque drive. The torques. Where do I have torques? This kind of drive. Some people call it the star drive, but going with the larger torques screws, these holes are larger. My plan is to pack these full of epoxy and shredded fiberglass before they get glued down, just to make sure I have a really good glue joint between these and the parts that will remain in here. That'll be this one bottom plate. So I'm waiting for those screws. I've also been waiting for my sexy coupler from Germany. This is not it, but it looks just like it. But I've decided that in the interim, I can use this Octura coupler because it is, for all practical purposes, the same size. It's a little shorter, but this one's a little smaller in diameter. And So that's good enough to get things in there and mounted. So hopefully this will be going soon. Next week, I have to drill a property in Escondido on Wednesday. I have to meet the health department guy one day during the week, but I'm going to try to get to the pond at least 2 days. Not today, 2 days. I'm going to try to get there at least 2 times. So that's my plan for this week. Until next time, boys and girls, jet out. Welcome back, boys and girls. I always review my videos before I publish them because while I'm perfectly fine giving you garbage publications, I don't like giving you complete garbage publications. So, to that effect, I review the videos and make sure there's nothing that could be misconstrued or just sucks. Anyway, I started off the video talking about the one out, one in. And I talked about all the ones that went out. I didn't talk about the one that went in. Yes, boys and girls, I pulled the trigger on a ARF boat, almost ready to float, that comes with motor and everything but the batteries and such, that I am going to run down at the Quivira Basin model boat pond. That's a whole lot easier to get to, a whole lot less structured. You can just drive in, run it, go. The drawback with it is it's saltwater. So I'm going to make this my dedicated saltwater boat. And to that effect, I think I'm going to develop, when you go to the pond, you take your toolbox with you. I think I'm going to develop a saltwater toolbox that includes fresh water and what I really want to do, and I think it's really important, is you can get those hand crank pumps for pumping fuel to gas airplanes. I want to be able to pump fresh water through the cooling systems shortly after the boat comes out of the water. That's the worst place for corrosion, is inside the cooling system, inside your water jacket and inside all the here. So 'tis best to flush the cooling system with fresh water. And what better way to do it? I mean, look at the way the gas guys fill their airplanes. They have a gallon jug and a little hand crank and it pumps gas in. Well, I'm going to have a gallon jug and a little hand crank and it pumps water in. So that and just a spray bottle of fresh water that you can spray everything in the inside and rinse it out before you even leave. When I go to the freshwater pond, I run these things, throw them in the truck, bring them home, and clean them out. At the saltwater pond, you got to be a little different. You got to run the things, clean them out, and then take them home. I mean, the effect of salt water happens in minutes. I mean, in the time it takes me to make coffee, salt water will foobar up your stuff. So that's my plan. I pulled the trigger on a ARF boat for saltwater. Until next time, boys and girls, jet out.